All right, well, welcome everyone to the sustainability meeting. We've got just one addition to the agenda as we discussed last night in the council meeting. We have Amber here to present the resilience program, specifically the heat pump proposal that we're going to talk about. Also, Mitch is here to give us an update on the Elks Land property regarding the fire station building. So thank you, Mitch, for being here. We're going to start with Amber as she has a time commitment in the near future. So Amber, I can just turn it over to you and talk about.
Yeah, so the idea for the heat pump grant proposal would be to create stipends for citizens. The max would be $50,000. So if we provide $1,000 stipend, that would impact 50 different households in the community. I did speak to Paul Moscone just to, get one professional on the plate and kind of pick his brain on it. And if people were to go through Efficiency Maine as well, they're looking at a cost of only $600 to $800 out of pocket after that stipend. I think that when we look at this, we should have people bring their receipts before we give them reimbursement as one step, and how we want people to apply and how we choose them. I really think I want to leave up to all of you for discussion. That's all I have at the exact moment right now. I will say that the Moscones are putting together a package for us to give us more pricing, and we can look at numbers. As it was brought up last night in the meeting, Sandy Sullivan had mentioned, what if someone already has a heat pump and they don't qualify for the rebate through Efficiency Maine? How would we want to look at that? How much do we want to fund everyone? I'm open to any and all ideas so we can get this application going.
Great. So we can open it up to discussion for the committee here if anyone has any input. I know that Jane and I discussed this briefly and had a little bit of a concern with the out-of-pocket cost, because I think your idea was to basically have them put up money up front and then get reimbursed from the town's portion of the grant.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if we're looking at how we want to make this accessible to the public, whether it's by demographic or age group or income level, especially if we're trying to get the lower income level, it's very unlikely that they'll have $600 or $800 to spend up front. And I was thinking, depending on who we go with, whether it's Moscone or Nicoteau, who it is, if they might be willing to put that up front, knowing, because they're familiar with the program.
Right.
So if they know that they're going to get reimbursed, that it's a sure thing through the town, they might be willing to put that cash up front and not have to put that burden on.
Now that $600 to $800 would be their total after, so they would still have to spend that. That's including our thousand. So they're looking at if they went through Efficiency Maine does $2,000, and the household has to make less than $90,000 to qualify, and it has to be a first time. So if they get a $2,000 rebate from them, we give them an additional $1,000. The $600 to $800 basically is their installation cost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just off my conversation with Paul. Now, that's not to say that Galen may tell me something different. I did speak with his wife yesterday. I'm just waiting for him to give me a call back, as well as Dave's World. I have put in a request for contact with them as well.
Great. Yeah, I think knowing what our options are with other installers would be helpful. And if we want to target certain demographics, is it possible to just pay the entire amount, including the installation fee? I know it'll reach less people, but if we're looking at subsidizing something like this for low income, maybe we want to look at 100% of the.
Yeah. I mean, 25 households is still incredible.
Yes.
Because we're looking at just almost doubling it. That's still an incredible impact to this community.
Yeah. Are there any other thoughts on that, Councilor Feltz here?
No, I'm just trying to. So we're talking installation around $3,800 for this units.
Yes.
I'm thinking that I mean, hearing anything about heat stuff struggling in town, Mobilize Katahdin should be involved. I think that that's the organization that has the best pulse on what the need is in the community. And I think that they could also be the deciding factor of who should get a heat pump or not. Because they already have funding to give out for heat for this winter. So, I mean, they're going to be the entity that a lot of people are calling.
Could
I
at
just think they
least
should be
share-
involved.
Could at least share this program with
Yeah.
the people that are calling.
I think I don't know if I missed it when I walked out, but I think I have a concern about people footing the entirety of the bill up front and then getting reimbursed. I think that would be a barrier for the people that
Yeah, we
actually
did
need
talk
it.
about that.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I'm almost wondering if we just do less quantity and,
That's where we're
That's what I
at.
was. thinking,
oh,
yeah.
okay, okay.
Thinking
Yeah.
we should either cover 100% of the cost and have less people enrolled in it, and or talk to other companies like Nicoto and others who she said she already contacted to see
Yeah.
what they might offer, which might be different. And Mike, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just a touch, I don't necessarily think we should cross over. I know Mobilize Katahdin was just granted, what, 50,000 for heat assistance this year. And I think we want to keep the heat assistance and a heat installation separate. Because there's going to be, the heat assistance is going to be, you're looking at maybe possibly the criteria having people who have small children or, school-age children in the home that's trying to heat, that are trying to get assistance or whatever, where heat pumps like this may be more targeted toward the elderly, especially older people on fixed income. I think the two separate entities, and I really don't want to necessarily blur the line between the two. I think they need to be, I agree that Mobilize Katahdin would probably have a list or information as far as, those in need. But I just want to, I think we should keep the heating assistance and the heat pump program two separate but equal entities going forward.
I agree with that. I was just saying that the people who need heat assistance are the people who need heat pumps, so that they don't need heat assistance in the future to lift that burden for them. Because obviously adding a heat pump makes it so that their energy is more affordable. So they're not using as much, so they won't need as much assistance from a program like Mobilize Katahdin in the future. It's solving the issue, not just using a Band-Aid.
Are you more recommending that we have dialogue with Mobilize Katahdin to maybe get recommendations of folks who would benefit from this program?
And I think
Not
that,
necessarily administering it.
Yeah.
but just,
yep, like Shelley or Mobilize Katahdin could be passing those people to the town to be like, this is the resource.
If I could too,
Yeah, it could, that certainly should be one source of recommendations.
Mike and then Tom.
yeah, if I could too, I think it could be, I think we need to look at this as a two-tier situation. Those who obviously need assistance but can't afford to pay anything. I mean, there's a probably an equal but separate need for those who could afford to pay $600, but to get a heat pump with the rebates, that group, and then the group that could not afford to pay anything. I think there's two groups there that could be could benefit from this. And I would hate to think that we would go ahead and put all our eggs in one basket. I just think that whatever application is used, I think it has to go with whether or not they are able to assist themselves. $600 for a heat pump isn't very much. but it can do a lot for a retired person. And of course, free is free. You can't, nobody's gonna be able to beat that. But I just would like to think that we would go ahead and look at both groups, because I think there might be an underlying group that could go ahead. And if they can pay the 600, they might go ahead and stretch the money even further.
Tom and Jane.
I got a couple of things while they're on my mind before I forget them. I think that Amber, we should have Amber contact City of Bangor. They're actually doing this. They give them $2,000, but just to see what they use for a criteria and what they use for an application. I mean, if somebody's already invented this, why?
Is that an in-house program?
That's the
that
City of
they
Bangor's
created?
doing. I don't know where they got the money. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know that much about it. I know that they are offering it.
It's part of their county money.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
My other thing is, we have numerous heat pump companies in Millinocket. Rick Washington does it, and I know their prices vary a lot. So I think we ought to check with all of them. We'll have all of them give us a
Sorry,
whole.
just told me about him this morning.
Okay.
I didn't realize, so I will contact him.
And my third issue is, we're talking about low income. I just want to make sure that we have a criteria in there that it's they own the home.
Of course.
Not rental.
Yes.
Yeah, but just, before people start, geez, I'm a landlord, I can get heat pumps in.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so just, while that was on top of my mind.
Yeah.
I'll
Thank you.
take this.
Homeownership, I mean, is criteria.
Jane.
Yeah, so question for Amber. When is the money released? So will it be this winter, this heating system, or when would this be implemented?
That is a really good question. I will get you an exact answer ASAP and send that out. I will verify with Sharon when we should see that if we were to be awarded. I'll send her an email right now.
Okay, and the other thing I was thinking, in response to Mike was talking about 2 tiers, or there's some that need help to pay for all of it, and there's others that might just need,
Totally need it.
that could kick in the $600 or $800. I'm wondering if there's a way in the application that we have a time period. We try to disperse all the money for those that need the full amount, so the lowest tier of income. And then if we're down to the wire and we don't have requests, is there a way to put it out that, there's another tier of income here is available to you, the 600 to 800, but that you have to pay the other. So I just didn't know how the grant was written or what the flexibility was at the end of the grant period if you haven't spent the money to spend it down as intended.
I tend to kind of agree with where you're going. Funding it to the people that are the neediest, they're a homeowner, their income is, they can't even scratch a couple $100 for this project. Those kind of, I think we should have priority. And then, I don't know, I think we find 25 or 30 of those in Millinocket
Yeah.
pretty quick.
We know that we have a lot of widowed employees. Wives that have been working for a long time.
Again, I think it needs to go by income. And
Over here,
yeah, I mean, it's got to be income based strictly. And the most needy get obviously the most assistance.
Yeah, depending on when the funding's available, if we can implement this as soon as possible, I think we should put it out to the lowest income bracket possible. And then through the winter, if there's not enough interest or not enough people apply, then we can start looking at opening it up to other income levels.
Can we include on the application and the income verification?
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea.
Like
We can. and I think-
And should we set a threshold for that?
I think we absolutely can. I think Tom's suggestion of looking at Bangor is great. I'm sure they do something like that. One of our stipulations can be that we need proof that they're on heat assistance, because obviously they have to meet certain criteria, and that's already been done.
Vetted.
They've already been vetted basically to get heat assistance through certain programs anyway. So that might be a way for us to not have to go through that whole process ourselves.
But I agree with that, Steve. The only thing that we need to be careful of there is, again, a lot of the older, I hate to keep using the widows, but it is more women than, will not apply for
Yeah.
help.
So they're not the
Right.
same.
They're not gonna be looking for help. So I think that could be a criteria, but also we will look at their income and, their need.
Mhm.
The other thing, I just want to let you know, I did make a phone call this morning to the Department of Education statewide on this heat pump, if you've had a heat pump in your home. Because I talked to somebody and they said, if you had a heat pump in your home and then you bought the home, say that you didn't own the home, you bought it, it had a heat pump in it that did not work, you still qualify as a first time. But I need to get that verified. I was gonna get that and then I'd let Amber know. Sandra asked me if I'd look into it. Fine.
I think Tom brings up a very good point in the fact that you have, or you may have, people who have not applied for one reason or another for heat assistance and, but are still in need of assistance. People who may not know how to apply or whatever, or have been too proud to apply or whatever. You may find these people coming available now for some kind of assistance. So I think you'd have to go ahead and open it up to everybody and then sort down through to find those most in need and their income verification.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. We should maybe look at a few different options of how you can qualify for this program. Heat assistance being one, but if you're not on it, we could look at it individually or whatnot.
Right.
And to Brittany's earlier point, if there are people that have not reached out for heating assistance that may really need it, but are too proud, as you mentioned, Mike, this program and the way that we're talking to them about the heat pumps might be a way to encourage them to look at getting heating assistance and sending them to Mobilize Katahdin and at least telling them about that resource so that it might be a little bit less of a barrier for them or make it feel a little bit more comfortable for them to do that just as an option. So I guess next steps is looking at when the money actually might be available, looking at some of the other businesses, what they might offer, and then looking at the city of Bangor's application process. And I think that all would help basically decide the next step.
They're the only ones that I'm aware of. There may be more. I don't know. But Bangor is advertising there. It's pretty heavy. That's why.
I don't know have you had a chance to share any of the M-Dash
I was
data?
just thinking
I would
about
say-
that. We need to.
Because we have some quick statistics that we were given at a previous meeting. So the federal poverty line for one person in a household is $12,880. And our statistic for Millinocket is that almost 90% of older women, so 65 plus, in Millinocket area are below the federal poverty line. So they don't have $800 to pay for a heat pump.
Right.
Man,
That's that. Yeah.
Below
Yeah.
That's the.
Yeah.
That's the.
that's, can't buy groceries.
And the thing is, I have a couple of those people that I keep a pretty close eye on, and I talked to them already about Mobilize Katahdin getting some monies and be able
They won't
to go away.
Well, maybe you can talk to them about this.
That's a
program.
handout. They're not gonna take a handout.
That's terrible.
So what Brittany's talking about, the M-Dash, it's our data dashboard. The Maine Council on Aging is working with us, the Age Friendly Committee, to get us all that data. And I'm working on them coming to a council meeting, presenting the data so everybody hears it. But one of the strategies, because we have to have a strategy at the end of our 2 or 3 community strategies at the end of this project as per our MOU with them. And it was to help folks in need sign up for programs such as this. So this actually falls, it's good timing. It falls into what we hope to do and are going to say what we're going to do. So there's a lot of synergy here around a project like this and this funding opportunity. So yeah, we'll think it through and make the best of this opportunity.
And I
Yeah.
think by doing that, that also opens us to being able to get national grants from Age Friendly. Towards a project, something like this. If we did this project and it was successful,
ARP money,
they have some money
Get a
to
few
think
more.
about nationally, a bigger
Yeah.
amount.
get a few more done that one.
Good idea.
Collaboration works.
Mr.
Correct.
Chairman,
Yes.
if I could ask Amber, is this a one-time opportunity, or can we reapply for these same type of funds next year again to possibly help more people?
Can I ask a follow-up question to Counselor Madore? Were you at the meeting last night?
Medicated, but there,
Okay, he was.
yeah. I was slightly medicated, but there.
Okay. Would you like to answer? that?
So yes, we can apply for twice a year, once in the fall, once in the spring, as long as the funding continues. And they keep the program going through the governor's office.
That's when you mentioned the governor, Mike. Remember that?
Okay,
We got you on video, man.
I know you probably do, and like I say, better living through chemistry.
Yeah. All right,
All right, well, so we'll get more information, and on that, I mean, obviously, we're gonna have more discussion. And I was thinking today, some committees have a pretty regular time of meeting. I think that would be helpful to do with this committee, especially as we look at developing this program. I'm thinking probably the Thursdays that we have council meetings, before the council meeting, probably at 4:30, if that works. That way we can, we're all planning on being here anyway, and it's just a scheduled time to make sure that we can get this program up and running.
That would certainly work better.
Yep, that works for me.
Had it scheduled.
Okay. So from here on out, we'll schedule this committee, basically just every council meeting before the meeting at 4:30. Well, great.
So you mean every 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yep. Especially if this funding's available soon, I think we'll need to.
It's
meet
4:30,
regularly.
I'll give you
We have to
a
have
four
that in.
o'clock. you know,
Yeah,
some
I think it's
space.
September 20th.
My availability will
We're an hour.
fluctuate on that, depending on the presence of the court and when I'm able to set up for the council.
Yeah, but make sure they know that date.
September
don't
20th, I
mention-
presented it last night.
Yeah, I thought you did, but just making sure. You have to have that application in by the 20th.
Okay.
Oh, she'll.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
We'll make sure we meet before that, and
Yes.
yeah,
correct.
I think the next
Thank you.
council meeting is the 22nd anyway.
Oh, you mean to review it? Okay, gotcha,
I mean, we don't have to have all the details, but we can have.
correct.
I think we were just tooling out.
All righty, everyone set on that topic then?
Go.
All right. So the next item is the fire station building, and we have Mitch Razor here to give us an update on the site analysis. Thanks again, Mitch, for being here. If you want to give us your thoughts on it.
Sure, okay. Let me share my screen here, thanks. And before I get into the drawings that I prepared, some of the analysis drawings, I thought we'd just look at the an aerial of that area, that spot. Sorry. So this is, outer central, you're familiar with the site. And this is the parcel is approximately this here with frontage on Central and backing down to the airport.
Yeah.
So just to orient us on that. So I'm gonna stop sharing on this screen and then move to some of the drawings I prepared. Thanks. So let's see.
Oh, so-
here. And you can see that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Again, let me just get my annotation tool going. So I prepared 3 different drawings here. This is just their basic sort of existing conditions drawing and with environmental and sort of zoning information on the drawing. Central Ave's over here to the left, north is to the left. And just the basics that I was able to gather, you know, topography, wetlands, soils, the basic zoning information. In general, you know, there's some mapped pockets of wetlands, you know, shown throughout the site. A map sort of stream crossing that site, leading to a larger sort of wet area in the back that wasn't actually mapped, but you can tell by the topography that it seems like it's going to be a wetter area in this area over here to the east. Some of the, in terms of the zoning, that's basically the approximate 6 acre parcels divided right in half, about right here, between the highway commercial up front and the airport to the back. The soils mapping that we were able to do pretty much coincides with sort of the wetlands and topography we saw. So you have some pockets of, you know, pretty good soils in this area here, and then this area in here, you know, and then over on this side. So basically along that sort of western edge, which is also sort of some sort of road that, or clearing or sort of woods road that goes from Central all the way back to the airport. I think it's right on the property line. I'm not sure if it's on your butter or it's on your property, but there's, well, you know, good potential to sort of for future expansion on the site in terms of other uses back in the site. There's, you know, some good acreage back in the back and also up in the front for that.
And Mitch, if you don't mind pausing for a second, since
Yeah.
you drew this out, for those who look at the recording later or who have not participated in earlier discussions, the idea was the smaller circle on the left side of the screen that's circled. Yep, that's where we're looking at putting a new fire station.
Correct.
And then that road that was just referenced, which is basically the west portion of the property, goes straight to airport property. So if the new fire station or public safety building is built there, this will give direct access to the airport, which allows our town to also have the capability of hosting larger aircraft and also passenger aircraft with larger amounts of people.
That's
So
right.
thinking about a large investment, you know, whether it's partially taxpayer money or grants or whatnot, thinking about best utilizing that for the future to make sure we're checking off as many boxes as possible. Obviously, also being on Central Street as a main artery in and out of town, which is another important aspect when we're thinking about emergency response. And then, as was referenced, future expansion. At a next meeting, whether next one or the one after, I'm looking to have some real estate agents locally here in town to come talk to us about what the demand has been for lots of land, because there is a great demand right now for 2 to 5 acre lot sizes, even on dirt roads, even undeveloped, with, you know, no infrastructure in terms of water lines or sewer lines or anything like that. There's a lot of people looking for that, and there just isn't really anything like that available right now in most of the northern part of the state. So this could be an opportunity if we wanted to subdivide basically that entire right portion, bottom right portion, which has good soils. If we wanted to put in a dirt road in there and basically subdivide that, that could be a good opportunity not only to regain some money from our initial investment, but also begin charging taxes on those lots as well. Thank you, Mitch.
In terms of infrastructure, there's, you know, power runs along the frontage of the site. And then I did speak with, I believe, Jim yesterday, it was yesterday, regarding water and sewer, and about 300 feet this direction at Brookfield offices is where the basically where town sewer and town water ends and sort of loops back around. So that would be sort of that gap that would have to be addressed in terms of extending sewer or water to the site. Water is not really a big deal. Sewer would probably require a small, one of those sort of package pump stations that, you know, they're you know, you see them a lot with the residential homes or commercial developments where you basically pump up. You're allowed to pump uphill to the, to get past that gravity, to get to the gravity feed point. So that's about 300 feet down the road. Or you can, go on site with well or using on-site septic as needed. I'm going to switch drawings here. Any questions about existing conditions yet?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, and also there's a lot of frontage on Central Ave. And something I did notice as you're going, I guess, sorry, is that as you're heading, out of town this direction, I think it's the more you locate development up in this corner, I think the grades are easier to negotiate in terms of in and off of Central, and it becomes a bit steeper and probably more. I mean, it's very much doable, but Central sort of raised up higher as you progress along the front of the site. So this corner is pretty much level with Central, and it becomes a bit more sort of a side slope along the right of way into the property as you sort of move along that property. I'm going to switch here. Let's see. Next drawing. Sorry. Oops. Let me clear. And then I have a zoom in of this corner as well. But I looked at approximately this 2-acre corner here in the front, and worked with the basic sort of parameters provided to me for what might be needed for the size of a station. So what I show here is a 90 by 100 building with 5 14-foot bays, and then looking at recent fire station developments in my town and other places, what they had for basic required geometries for the site for large vehicles and turning movements. So develop this basic layout, but it works and it fits in very well here. It could be shifted even more down the page this way if needed. But I try to leave a little bit of room around it in case there's future expansion or any other needs that might be required to the site. So I didn't have it right up against the property line, but a little bit off that, just in case there was some needs or future expansion. But it works well in that location. I don't, there's going to be, of course, probably some localized drainage and wetland issues, but nothing that I've seen as mapped up in this corner. And so then if you sort of jump to a zoom of that area again. So this is a sort of a little bit more focused area with some dimensions on it. But again, this is working with just sort of the basic parameters we were provided in terms of the facility needs. So you can see here there's 5 14-foot bays that you are right off Central. You can either back in or drive right through, and then plenty of sort of circulation on the back side. There's a 90 feet there. So you can either circulate around the entire site or through the building from either direction. And then off to the side of that, I wasn't sure what to show, but here's 2,700 square feet of support space, living space, offices, gym, whatever kind of support space might be needed for that. And again, this is about a 2-acre area. If you sort of, sorry, let me draw that for you. So this is about a 2-acre area here that would be utilized for this proposal. Again, it seems to work well with the Central Ave grading. I didn't grade this out, but the topography isn't really extreme in this area at all. It's just sort of standard site development, no anticipated expensive type of development like retaining walls. And we can change. You can change this footprint. It can grow. It seems like there's plenty of room in this area to sort of meet your future needs. Any questions or clarifying questions before we move on?
Doesn't seem to be. Oh, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just, if we're going to do this, considering the longevity of how we use buildings in this town, I want to make sure that there is, and I ask this more of Tom than anyone, is this going to be adequate, because I would personally, if we're gonna do this, I'd rather have too much space than not enough to take care of this the first time out. I mean, I realize there could be room for expansion and everything else, but does this drawing and rendering adequately fit the needs going forward, Tom, of what you see as a new fire station and what we, you know, would best service the town of Millinocket in the area?
Yeah, yes, I think I think what we gave for dimensions, the 90 by 100 is going to be fine. Most of your trucks now are around 40 feet long. Ambulances, of course, are a lot shorter. And what I was worried about was ramp space, and he's got plenty of ramp space there, front and rear. So I think this is a building that would lead us into the future. I think that would be, I mean, you know, we've talked about what we do when we buy another truck. You know, and my opinion is when you buy another truck, you buy a Quinn, which is a ladder pumper combination. You know, a ladder that's 100, you know, like the one we had, you need the 120-foot space to get that truck inside.
And is one of these bays, would it be dedicated to washing, or how does that work? Or is that outside? How does that work?
I would like to see this first bay towards Millinocket
Yeah,
be set up to wash.
okay.
Could even be an isolated bay
They're
that,
gonna take this system department out.
go ahead.
Sorry.
You're good. There could even be an isolated bay that's cut off from the rest, so that if there needs to be some kind of quarantining or, you know, some kind of hazmat or whatnot, a lot of newer fire stations have that. So to have a separate bay like that would be helpful.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of hospitals have that too. Any other thoughts on this?
I just want to make sure that what Tom said about eventually, if we were to get another truck, a ladder truck, and have a Quint in there, that we have adequate height and length bay available for that truck, so that we're not in the situation we're in right now where we don't have the ability to go ahead and put that a truck that size in our fires.
Yeah, and this is more about site analysis than it is the building itself. And as Mitch mentioned, we have quite a bit of space to expand, especially towards Millinocket. So if this building needs to be bigger, certainly can be. And the topography is good for that. But that will be the next step, is looking at the building itself and making sure that we're getting all those boxes checked off.
Okay,
Anything else for Mitch?
Oh, thank you.
No, it's been
All
very
right,
helpful.
Mitch.
Oh, I just, as an aside, I had a meeting earlier in the week with this group down here, Flycatcher, who's like environmental work consulting firm. And they are currently working on the solar field at the mill site, the 30-acre. And I know that's not one of your directly under your sort of supervision, but it was interesting to hear that, you know, not only it's the solar field, but the 30 acres they're creating, they're, you know, very specifically planting that, manage that for sort of resiliency and pollinator meadows. So there's a very sort of interesting ecological story there. And I didn't know if your committee was aware of sort of that aspect of that project on the mill site in terms of the plantings and the ecology that they're trying to create there.
I don't think we were. That's,
No, I
that's
wasn't.
pretty great to know.
Yeah,
So
It's
who,
nice to know. Thank you.
who is the one working on that?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of consulting firms working under that big umbrella of that group, but the firm that's working on that planting plan is they're called Flycatcher.
Huh, okay.
They're based here in Yarmouth as well. Yeah, and they've developed like a very specific sort of proprietary seed mix that with specifically addressing sort of native plants and that's very pollinator friendly and biodiverse. So it was very interesting to sort of hear what they had done on that project as they're trying, they haven't even started clearing the site, the 30 acres for, that's currently forest, but as they do that, they're going to then develop a very specific sort of management plan and planting scheme to introduce this but I think is a very sort of ecologically friendly project, and it's very interesting. At least I was very interested to hear the extent they've gone to develop that. It's not just a standard sort of like MDOT seed mix. It's a
That's
very
good
different-
resource information, Mitch. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we
Um,
actually passed an order to raise some funds for planting some wildflowers in some of our corridors coming into town. There
Oh,
wasn't enough time to plant this season, at least with the other planting that was going on. But perhaps we could talk to them about that seed mix and what might be best suited for that corridor.
oh, that's interesting. Were you looking at just like a meadow along the corridor or other types of plantings along with the meadow? Or
Basically just a strip that would make it easier to maintain. You know, you don't have to mow a lot of that grass, especially in between trees. And
yeah.
just kind of a beautification thing.
I think it'd be great to utilize that meadow mix that they've developed, that very specific mix, and because it would definitely look a little bit more natural, but it'd be very sort of wildlife friendly.
Maintenance free.
Very cool.
Yeah. Did you have any other questions regarding any of this material?
I do not.
I think
Okay.
we're all set. Mitch, thank you very much for putting this together and for meeting with us here and presenting.
Yeah, okay, and I also forwarded these drawings to everyone on the committee, so you should have those too.
Great. And we'll have that uploaded on our website.
All
So
right.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll head out now, but have a good meeting. It was good seeing everyone. I hope you had a good summer and have a great fall.
Thank you, you too.
Be in touch. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, obviously that shows the viability of that site. That was kind of the last piece that we wanted to look at before making a recommendation to the council of purchasing this. I think we still should talk to the realtors of what they see as being a realistic plan on how we can develop some of the back portions of the site there. Because I firmly believe that, we could make this money back if we bonded this or whatever we do, just in lot sales and in tree harvesting, because I think there's roughly $50,000 to $60,000 worth of trees on that property right now too. Are there,
Possible interest in, solar that still exists?
and solar as well? Yes, actually, the solar company is interested now in also doing battery storage on site. So this could be another opportunity for that too.
More infrastructure attacks.
And they would be interested in assisting with developing the infrastructure to the site in terms of roads and fencing and things like that. So that's another significantly reduced cost to us.
That'd be a good way to start the development without the fire station being
Mhm.
in place.
Mike?
Yeah, have we locked in, is the Elk sale price firm?
Yes, they've been waiting on us basically to make a decision very patiently, which is wearing thin, understandably.
No doubt.
Yeah, I understand it is wearing thin and so acting soon would be good for us.
Jane?
So my question kind of dovetailed that. Do we want to act before we hear from their realtors, just as far as like the whole pack, presenting a package of what it would look like in potential return on this investment?
I think since we're gonna probably want to meet before the deadline for that resilience thing, we could also meet before the next council meeting and have the realtors discuss this, and basically we can form a recommendation at the next meeting for our later September council meeting, is my view.
So before the 22nd. Okay. As long as it's not at 4
Yeah,
o'clock.
that's
the
what I was
day
thinking
before.
too.
Yeah.
Well, the resilience thing is due to 20th, so we definitely
Right.
have to meet before that.
Yeah, great.
So
Excuse me, but as part of that recommendation, are we going to have, for instance, interest rate on the bond and timeline also to give the council so they know when the bond could be issued and what the interest rate would be and what the payback should be?
yes, our treasurer actually looked into that and looked at a couple different options of going through the bond bank or through
Bangor Savings.
Bangor Savings. One's a shorter term than the other, but we'll have that information for the next meeting to make that determination.
Okay.
Jane?
Yeah, so I know we're not going to hear about the county ARPA funds until November. They're making decisions. They're meeting with some folks. I know they're meeting with the hospital at the end of September 29th. Asking some other questions about our particular application. So it will be November before the town hears if they've been awarded any of those funds for this
Yeah.
design.
And I firmly believe that if we go ahead and purchase this property, we really should be doing as much as we can to get county funds, whether through ARPA or just other county funds for this, because we're gonna have to cover so much of the county developments that are going on up there, which we already do. But with all the new development, if they expect our town to have that kind of service, we need to have a good functioning facility that can host all the equipment and be efficient. So I think county is really where we should be focusing our energy in terms of fundraising for this building.
Well, and
And that-
depending on the project, we can certainly apply for TIF or help funding.
And that's both counties too, because that development that's going on, the major development teeters
one north?
between
Yeah.
two counties.
Hmm.
Between Penobscot and Piscataquis.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know a lot of times Charlie will fight back that Piscataquis doesn't have any money. Piscataquis has a lot of money. Go up and look at what they're building up in that area.
Right.
It's above. So
And
we
they,
want to keep that in mind with what.
and they can bond if they need to for this building. So
That's right.
even if they don't have the cash, they can at least.
What development is this that we're talking about up there? One north or?
So we're talking like Polstein's property and all those up there.
No, yeah, we'd be servicing them.
I think you're right, Steve. I think that's a very good selling point to the county that this should be a priority for the area. I think it's a very valid argument.
Especially if we're putting skin in the game, we paid for that consultant to give us this information and we're looking at bonding the land. You know, we've put a lot of our skin in the game at that point. I think it's time for the county to step up and finish the rest of the project.
Recognize.
So. All right, so next steps then is getting that financial information, the bonding options. And also having the realtors here and having a recommendation for the council before the 22nd meeting. We had discussed doing this as a package of potentially looking at other lots in town to purchase. The Economic Development Committee is working on that. That meeting was at 12:30. It's gonna have to be rescheduled to another day because of the legal meetings that a lot of us have today. But those two ideally would be packaged together. And also potentially some equipment to assist with the basically like a matching grant that would assist with already raised funds for snowmobiling and ATV equipment, which is certainly a lot less money we're talking about with that than these potentially two lots. So ideally, we'll have that package and the other meeting will be scheduled certainly within that time frame so that both committees can make the recommendations to have it all in one package.
Good. I'm glad that we haven't lost sight of that other property there. I really think the two together, it's very important to the community moving forward.
I agree. So we'll pick up that conversation in the other committee when that gets rescheduled. Any other conversation on the Elks property fire station building? Alrighty. And last but not least, updates on the airport terminal project. I understand that we had signed we had a approval to a notice of approval basically to go ahead with the project for the airport engineering. And you had signed the agreement with Arcadia.
I did.
And do you know where they're at with their timeline?
They are just diving in. I do have a very rough timeline. that I could probably find. We are working on getting them the advance, the first round of payments. So they had scheduled for a September 1st hard start date for like preliminary work. Beginning of October, they'll be starting the design. Of course, that is, they're bringing on Haley Ward Engineering to assist them through that project. In November, we should have a 50% design submission from them. That's due around November 11th. And then between December 20th and January 4th, we will receive 100% design submission and then have that time to look at the design as a group and provide any feedback during that first week of January. So they can move on to, you know, the rest of the dates on the timeline reach out to the end of March and beginning of May. But that one time span between December 20th and the first week of January will be probably the most impactful to us as a group to see the completed design or first round of the completed design and provide our feedback.
It's great. Any discussion on that?
Well, the airport, I'm just curious, is the date on the solar development, solar thing up there.
I don't think so.
We have no date on any of that. No.
I think the intention is that they're going ahead with it. I think Jeff would know more. He couldn't be here today. But Jeff would, he's the point person on that.
Correct.
But this is exciting, obviously. It's a great timeline, especially it gives us time hopefully to look for funds for the construction itself. Ideally, we can line it up so that when it's done in the summer, we could start construction if we find the funds soon.
Yes.
That might be a little ambitious, but
We
certainly
do
possible.
have some time coming up in the next week or so. Set aside to speak with some of Senator King's staff on other funding options for that build, where we weren't fit into the final draft of the spending bill. So they're willing to help us figure that out, and we are absolutely taking them up on the opportunity.
Thank you for doing that. Any other conversation on this? All righty. Well, that's it.
Well,
Right under an hour.
you want to consider responding to the planning board's recommendations for housing? Zoning changes?
Not for this meeting, no. That'll be another future meeting. All right, well, that's it. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
They
What committee